Please welcome to the stage Cortland Roser Jones, Assistant Professor of Law at the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law.
Good evening. My name is Cortland Roser Jones, and I have the pleasure of introducing the American Constitution Society's 2024 Ruth Bader Ginsburg Scholar Award recipient to Miriam Seifter. A professor, Rowe Faculty Fellow, and co-director and creator of the State Democracy Research Initiative at the University of Wisconsin Law School, Miriam's scholarship is utterly exceptional. In less than a decade, her work has reinvigorated scholarly interest in state agencies, courts, executives, and constitutions. How these institutions interact and impact democracy has been the bread and butter of those who study federal law, as my colleague Peter Shane would say. But these have all been ignored at the state level. But Miriam's attention to these subnational levels of government has been infectious in the scholarly community. And her ingenuity is in how she's brought us all along, how she artfully crafts her innovative ideas and insights into conclusions that appear almost obvious, practical even. So important is Miriam's scholarship that if she had done nothing else besides write these wonderful works, she would be entirely deserving of this award named for the distinguished scholar and Justice Ginsburg. But I know that she's done so much more. I met Miriam at the beginning of my academic career when I was a hasty fellow at Wisconsin, when in a stroke of luck, she was assigned to the fellowship committee. To my surprise and delight, this brilliant scholar took hours away from her own work to provide me with the tools and encouragement I needed to do my own. I am not just a better legal scholar because of Miriam, I am a legal scholar because of Miriam's guidance during this time. Miriam is being honored tonight for her ability to imagine how society might be more just and her determination to use the law and scholarship to make this imagined real. But like the namesake of this award, she also has the gift of inspiring others to want to do so as well. So please join me in congratulating and welcoming to the podium the recipient of this year's Ruth Bader Ginsburg Scholar Award, the notorious in her own right, Professor Miriam Seifter.
Thank you all so much. It is not just an honor to receive this award, but it is a special honor to receive it from Professor Roser Jones, who, as you heard, I got to know early in my own career too, when she was a Badger, not a Buckeye, and who I so admire as a scholar and person. Thank you so much to ACS for this recognition of my scholarship. I am grateful for the time the selection committee spent on this process, for all of the kind words I've received from so many people throughout ACS, and for the willingness to see that democracy has to be a front burner issue, and that states are crucial sites for safeguarding it. I also want to thank a number of people who are not here today, my deans and colleagues at the University of Wisconsin Law School, which is an incredibly supportive institution that lets scholars do the work they want to do, my family for everything, more on them shortly, and years of incredible students and research assistants who have made my job more enjoyable and made my work better. I was asked to say a few words to you this evening, and I thought it fitting upon receiving the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Scholar Award to reflect a bit on Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and my scholarship. So here goes. I clerked for Justice Ginsburg during the October 2008 term. It was, unsurprisingly, an amazing experience. The justice was demanding, exacting, and so hardworking that her 5 law clerks in our 20s could rarely keep up with her. And then she would go hit the gym in her famous Super Diva sweatshirt. We wrote memos on memos on memos, and I learned to think carefully about every word and punctuation mark I used, lest I be asked later why I had chosen it and not have a good answer. She was also kind and supportive, a generous mentor, and a natural teacher. I learned so much from the justice that has influenced my work. I'll get back to that in a moment. But I'll start with something more personal that I took away from the clerkship. As some of you may know, I ended up marrying my co-clerk, Rob Yablon. Thanks, Justice. And as serious and intense as Justice Ginsburg was about her work, she also set an example for her clerks by leading a life that was full of love and laughter as well. Her wonderful spouse, Marty Ginsburg, was gregarious and hilarious. He was the one who baked us cakes on our birthdays, and he would call chambers with teasing questions like, "When will Her Highness be coming home tonight?" Usually not until late. Their mutual joy and admiration taught us by example something that had not always been clear to me in law school, that joy and being a lawyer are not mutually exclusive. And when she performed our wedding years later and was leaving the party, she instructed Rob and me to have all the happiness that she and Marty had. So this award is all the more meaningful to me because of how deeply the justice affected my life, not just my work. I think of her often when I am with Rob and our beautiful children, one of whom, I guess just by coincidence, shares some of RBG's core traits. She never backs down. She's 8. She sometimes seems to be fueled by cookies alone, and she is a night owl who has little use for sleep. Okay, on to scholarship. I am a scholar of public law, and my research takes a special interest in state-level constitutions and institutions and their relationship to democracy. My work is always informed by things that I learned from Justice Ginsburg, and that's true even though I don't work in Justice Ginsburg's signature areas of gender equality or civil procedure. So I thought I would mention 2 ways in which this has been true. First, one of RBG's superpowers was her ability to hold fast to things she believed in, even when they ran against conventional wisdom. During my clerkship year and throughout her career, she dissented. Quite a lot, and sometimes alone or in lopsided rulings. In many of these cases, her view ran directly against ideas that were widely accepted, including by people that she often otherwise agreed with. She had the ability to listen carefully and to think carefully about what other people thought, but sometimes to say in her own understated way, "That is not how I see it." I was often struck by how much courage and energy this took, how much easier it would have been to go along, and yet how important and rewarding it was not to. That, I think, captures a duty of every scholar, to carefully listen, but to question conventional wisdom, even among your friends, and when applicable, to say, "That is not how I see it." This came into play on, of course, a much smaller scale when I became fascinated with states. A lot of very well-intentioned people pointed out that states were not a popular field of study in law schools. They were probably going to be a real pain to get a grip on, there were so many of them, and they probably would not be a good way to get tenure. Those people had my best interests in mind, but that was not how I saw it. The focus on federal institutions in the academy and in legal discourse seemed like a conventional wisdom worth challenging. How can you say something meaningful about public law in the United States where people interface more with their state and local governments than with their national government, and where well over 90% of cases are decided in state court, without a deep understanding of state institutions? We should study and teach and talk about what's going on in the levels of government closer to home. And we must recognize that states are vital sites for democracy. A second way that RBG has influenced my work flows from her work towards equality, a well-known part of her legacy. She wrote, for example, in her landmark opinion in United States versus Virginia, that a prime part of the history of our Constitution is the story of the extension of constitutional rights and protections to people once ignored or excluded. RBG understood in her lifetime that that work was not done. And it is not done. In thinking about democracy, it is necessary always to strive for a more inclusive political community. In my work on the democracy principle in state constitutions with Professor Jessica Bowman-Posen, we observe that one tenet of state constitutions is political equality, both in the inputs and outputs of state government. Too often, as you all know, state institutions do not live up to these ideals. But when they do not, our work shows that state constitutions provide resources and a vocabulary for addressing them. Today, Rob and I co-direct the State Democracy Research Initiative at Wisconsin Law, where we seek to promote research and dialogue on public law in the states. We try to provide an infrastructure of ideas for vital work that can preserve and strengthen democracy at the state level. We educate a wide array of audiences about state constitutions and institutions. We build community in the field of state public law. Our work is founded on the premises that state public law does not get the attention it deserves yet, and that yet you cannot protect or strengthen things that you don't see and understand. I would welcome a chance to talk with you all about our work during this conference, but I won't go on at length because I stand between you and dinner. I will say for now that many of our recent reports and briefs and research are on our website, which is statedemocracy.law.wisc.edu, but you can also just Google me. We also operate two other websites that I'll quickly mention because they might be of interest. One is 50constitutions.org, where if you are looking for them, you can find all 50 state constitutions in their full searchable text. And before too long, they will also have the annotated history of revision of all 50 state constitutions. We also have a website on the democracy principle itself. So you can join our newsletter, follow us on the social medias that still exist, attend our virtual or in-person events, support our work in whatever way you are able. So, prioritize joy in addition to work, challenge conventional wisdom, and work for a world in which everyone is valued and can engage on equal terms. Those are lessons I gleaned from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I miss her, and I thank you all so much for this award and this occasion to reflect on her impact on my work. Thank you.